Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from Am I the Butthole? Story 1 is by Lessie Mexi. Am I the butthole for not telling my wife just how much my late wife left our children? I was married to Sammy for 8 years and we had 2 children together, Delaney, who's an 18 female, and Finn, who's 17 male. Sammy had been born with a serious heart defect that was left undiagnosed for many years. It was during her pregnancy with our daughter that she learned about this, though some health issues over her life had been a sign that was ignored by doctors. During her pregnancy with our son, she went into total heart failure, and between one thing or another, she realized she would not get another heart in time. Sammy came into money a few years before her death. We'd always talked about it going towards our kids' college expenses. When she realized it was unlikely she would live long enough to see them past kindergarten and first grade, she asked me how I would feel about her parents being in charge of the money. My family are not good people, and our concern was always if the money was left with me and something happened to me, my family would find a way to get their greedy paws on it. They would have spent that money without a second thought for their grandchildren, niece, nephew, and in all likelihood would have left them with nothing. So I said yes. Sammy's death came way too soon, but she was peaceful in the end. 4 years later, I met my current wife, Nat, and after a 2-year relationship, we got married. Nat has 2 girls who are 14 and 12. When Nat and I sat down to discuss finances, college funds, etc., I told her that Sammy had left our kids some money, never disclosing exactly how much, and just mentioned that we would not need to save for the kids' college. It was different with her girls. Her ex, their father, had stolen the money Nat saved for the girls. So we started saving together. But it was not a lot. When Delaney told me she wanted to go to college and that she was strongly considering community college, I sat both her and Finn down and told them about the money. I told her it was not to pressure her, but if she wanted to go away for college, there was money available. Delaney chose to keep the money for a house in the future, and Finn mentioned he would likely do the same with his share. Delaney mentioned it in front of Nat over the summer, and Nat was confused about her comment about buying a house. She asked how much money it was and said she was furious with me when Delaney told her. She said I should have disclosed just how much my kids had access to. I asked her why it was their money, it had nothing to do with her. She said I was too vague and I should trust her as my wife. This has been a tension between us since. Am I the butthole? I don't know. I'm gonna go through the comments first because I disagree a little bit on this one from what the comments generally say. Garamond7 says, not the butthole. Quoting the OP, I asked her why. It was their money, it has nothing to do with her. End of story. If anything, Nat should be happy that thanks to this inheritance, you can save money solely for her children's college fund. Imagine having to split your savings between 4 kids, not 2. Leslie Mexi says, that's what we have been doing. I think she believes we should have been saving more for the girls given how much of a difference there will be between what they'll have going to college if they go and what my kids have on hand. NJESQ04 says, you're not their dad and not responsible for their college education. Your wife should be grateful you're contributing at all. This comment right here got 2 kind of polarized comments that show people's strong stances on kids that are not yours from a marriage. Long Mustaches says, when you marry someone with kids, their kids become yours. That's such a terrible statement for you to make. Underneath that by Wade Duck, no they don't. In a divorce, he would have 0 rights to those kids. I lean more towards you should be taking care of this other person's kids as well if you marry them. At that point, you're pretty committed. You should be, having a say in it. This other person's just like, well, what about the divorce? Then they have no right to those kids, treating them like they're a commodity instead of people. My stance on the story, though, I don't feel like the wife currently is telling him he needs to give her any of the money. That's not what she's saying. I don't think OP is a full-on butthole for what he did. He has trust issues with money, given that he says that his family would try to get their greedy paws on it. And because of that, he didn't tell her what he has from his ex-wife. I feel like the wife in the current situation, given just this story, just wants to know, how much do you have? And I think if you can't trust her to tell her that, then you have some issues. I don't think it's ESH. I think you have a little bit of buttholery here. Just you. She's not being mean. She's not saying give me the money. She's not saying it's going to go to my kids or anything like that. She just says, you should tell me what you've got. You got to trust me, right? That's pretty simple. I don't think you're a flat-out butthole for not telling her you have trust issues, but hopefully she can just be trusted with this information. All she said is you should have disclosed how much your kids have access to, because you got to be able to trust me. That's it. And I agree with her. Our next story is by Witty Performance 76. Am I the butthole for leaving my wife at a party, going away solo when she was making me late? I'm 28 and my wife is 27. She graduated medical school in 2021. They had a graduation party since everyone was vaccinated, but it was pretty small due to a recent outbreak there. You could only bring one guest and you had to socially distance again. Her medical school decided to invite the pandemic graduates to this year's graduation event. They planned this all out pretty last minute, only giving 3 weeks notice that it was happening, but my wife was very excited about it. She gets paid crumbs and works long hours as a resident, so I get why she wanted to relax and have fun. The issue is that I had a huge work trip the next day that had been planned for months. I don't travel a lot for work, so they went all out to make this comfortable, and I had a lot riding on it. If I didn't do well, I would probably be fired, but if I did well, there were 2 open positions I could be promoted to. My wife wanted to come with me, so my company comped her flight and we were going to make a vacation out of it after my presentations. We were flying out the night of the party to ensure I made it on time for the meetings the next day. I told my wife we shouldn't go to the redo event since we had to fly out and it would be very tight. She insisted we go, since the party started at 3 p.m. and our flight left at 9 p.m. But the gala was 1.5 hours away from the airport. We made a plan to leave at 5:30, pack everything in our car beforehand so we could go straight to the airport. But by 5:30, she just started saying goodbye. I told her we needed to leave ASAP and she said no. We don't have to be 2 hours early for our flight, etc. Around 6 p.m., this guy from the med school, who had a crush and asked her out multiple times, grabbed her hand and pulled her to another table. I went up to them and told him he needed to back off. He said I needed to treat her better and let her enjoy herself. I looked at my wife, but she ignored me. At that point, I decided I wasn't going to try to convince her to stick to her word anymore. I told her I was leaving for the airport and took our car. There was a ton of traffic and security was a mess, so I only had a few minutes to spare before getting on the plane. She texted me horrible things. I never responded or engaged, but she kept texting me how I was horrible and don't understand what it's like to have COVID ruin a huge moment for you. I disagree. She still had a graduation party. It's not my fault she didn't get to dance. I don't see what the huge deal was, and conversely think she didn't understand that this would cost me my job if I missed the flight. And since I made up about 70% of our income in a HCOL, I don't know what that means, HCOL area, we would essentially be homeless. We've been on tense terms since this happened in June. She brings it up a lot and is recommending therapy so I can learn how to behave in a marriage. But I don't think we need it since she's the one who caused this whole problem in the first place and should take accountability for that first. But am I way off here? Am I the butthole? Let's see, you guys went to a party together. You wanted to leave 2 hours early to prepare for your flight and make sure you get there on time and get through security, which, without COVID, takes a long time to begin with, especially if it's a really big airport. And even if it's not, it can take some time to get through security and get everything done and, do your bag check and everything. You got there with minutes to spare. Plus, she was schmoozing with some random guy that asked her out in the past. She refused to go with you because you wanted to get there 2 hours early, and she didn't think that was necessary, and she was spending time with somebody who asked her out in the past. She is absolutely the butthole in this situation, and she's basically gaslighting you by saying you're the one at fault and you need therapy to learn how to act in a relationship. If she just wanted to hang out and stay at the party, that's fine. She doesn't go on the trip. but then she gets mad at you because you left for the airport and barely made it in time for your job? Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's definitely the bad guy. Our last story today is by Hot Tub Pass Machine. Am I the butthole for shaming my sister to my parents because she and her friends broke the hot tub because she didn't bother to fill it up after she got out? I'm 17 female and my sister's 21. We hated each other, and I mean legit hate. I don't recall ever thinking a positive thing about her. She is home for the summer and being a general pain in my butt. My parents were out of town this week and she had a party for all her friends. I'm not being mean, but it's a fact that my sister and her friends are very large. I guess my sister is more thick, but the others are big. They got into the hot tub, and while it was too many people no matter what, because they are so big, a huge amount of water overflowed over the side. The hot tub is right outside my window, so I could see and hear that the pump wasn't getting enough water after they got out. I yelled out my window that she needed to put the hose in since it can't run dry. She told me to mind my own business. I went out to do it myself, but by the time I got there, the pump was making a weird noise and then the breaker popped. The next day, she still didn't fill it up, but she didn't know why it wouldn't start, and I didn't care enough to tell her about the circuit breaker. When my dad got home, he wanted to sit in the tub because he has a really painful back condition, and basically running the pump without water ruined it, and my dad is furious. My sister lied to him and said that it was just like that, and even she and her friends didn't get to use it. I told him that actually no, she and her fat friends overflowed it, and then she ran the pump dry, and she told me to mind my business when I told her how to fix it. My mom is so freaked out about my sister's self-esteem that she is mad at me for calling my sister fat. My dad is furious with my sister because he needs the hot tub to relax his back or he doesn't sleep. My dad is mad at my mom for coddling my sister, and the house is even more tense than usual. My sister says I cause all the problem because I'm a snitch and a fat shamer. There is so much more, but I'm running out of room. Am I the butthole? This one got some pretty heated debates. There are a ton of people out there that vehemently hate fat people, and they all chimed in on this. It seems like most of the comments underneath this are anti-fat people, generally. Like, we need to stop normalizing being morbidly obese and all this other stuff. For the record, the second paragraph in here does not state how big they are. It just states that they're big. This teenager who stated at the very beginning she hates her sister calls these people big, and we don't actually know if they actually were big or she just says they're her fat friends. They could just be even slightly larger girls. I don't really believe that morbidly obese girls, like everybody in the comments was going on about, would climb into a hot tub to begin with, even if it's a private residence. So I think two things here. The sister is the butthole for not listening to her sister and filling up the water when she knew it was going to damage it. She didn't have to say, mind your own business. She caused it to break. She caused her father not to be able to use the hot tub anymore because it's broken now. The motor blew or whatever. Not just the breaker, but the motor actually burned out. To be clear, though, she did not call her sister fat. She said, you and your fat friends. So her sister freaking out about it and her mom freaking out about it and saying that she called her sister fat, she didn't. She said, your fat friends. Which, again, is still not okay. That's what makes this 17-year-old sister a butthole. You don't have to say you and your fat friends. You're saying that because you hate your sister and you're mad at her for not listening to you. Reasonably so, but you don't have to use certain words, which you know very well when you posted this, were designed to hurt your sister. Because you hate her. You said that. And everybody who's going on and about is how fat is true if it's true. You don't know the weight of these people, so you don't know if it's true either. If they actually were massive, I doubt they'd be going into a hot tub. None of the people who were commenting were there in this situation. So I think it's one of those situations where, yes, both of them were buttholes here. Both of them. They're honestly both buttholes for just hating each other, too. I know some people are going to be up in arms about that. You know, fat is just a word and it describes people who are fat. And fat is okay to say if somebody's fat. And it's still not entirely a nice term. And people got to acknowledge that. It's just not a nice term. And OP knows it. I mean, do I really have to go back to the second paragraph again and quote the OP where it says, they got into the hot tub and while it was too many people no matter what, there you go. And then she went on her rude, I hate my sister rant again. She's being snide. She is the butthole here. If it's too many people to be in the hot tub no matter what, yes, they broke it. Yes, they were wrong for not filling it up when you said so. We don't know how big they were. All we know is that you said they're huge. She is the butthole here. Huge one. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a remarkable day.